Next thing we're going to do, we're going to drop orders table into details right here. Select all. Okay. So we have orders table inside, and we're going to sort it by orders number. Okay, now let's preview the report. And this is what we get. Okay. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is bind the parameter to the parameter that we created here. We're going to do bind it to the customer number. So if we click on the table, order table, and then here, data set parameter binding. And we click on this parameter and say edit, and then on expression, we will bind it to the customer number. That way, every time the table gets populated with a new row, it's going to be connected to that parameter. And that way, we are going to link the tables to each other. Okay? Now, let's preview the report. Okay, so now if we compare the previous one, it has 13 pages. This one has 12 because it's connected. So this is the correct. This is all correct. Now let's move on to the next step. Now we're going to take a payment table and drop it also underneath the order table. Sometimes when you're doing this, it comes above, so we just have to move it down. Let's try this again. Alright, so now we are going to sort everything by payment date. So sort, add, payment date. Okay, let's preview the report. So now we can see both the order and payment. We got 23 pages now. Next step is to link the payment report like we did order. Remember we created also a parameter for that. So link that the same way we did order to the customer number. Add it. Customer number. So every time customer number populates, it will be linked to the parameter. So these two reports will be linked. So, okay, let's run this. And as you can tell, we have now 21 reports, not 23 like we did before. Next step that we're going to do is display only customers that have payments or orders. So here's a query that will, where exists, we are just checking the which ones have the customer number both in customer and orders, or payments and customer. So which we are just looking for the ones that are both in the customer and in the orders, or in the customer and the payments. the customer number that match. All right. Let's click OK and preview. So when we look now, we have 20 results. Remember, we had 21 before. Now this doesn't look very eye-appealing. So what we are going to do is try to put these two together, or one next to each other. For that, we need to insert grid. Grid is the static part where you can put dynamic parts. So right now they're below each other, but how would we do this so they are next to each other? Let's enter grid. Okay, I'm not seeing palette here. Remember, when you lose something, how would you find it? You're going to go to element. Oh, it seems like I forgot. Edit. No. Show element. It's under Windows. Windows show you. So palette. Here's a palette. I mean, you could click here. I didn't exit out. So we need a grid. Let's put a grid here. And because we're going to have we have two tables. So we'll just do this. We're going to put one table in this part and the other table in the other column. Now if we preview this, let's see what we get. You see, that looks much better, right? So we are matching where order number matches the customer number. Not the order number, the customer number. So we're just displaying those that have some orders. There are customers that don't make any orders, but the customers who made orders, that's what we're displaying. So we have just 12 pages this way. So order table has customer number, and we are matching it with the customer number in customer table, and the same thing with the payment date and the amount. All right. Okay, now what else can we do here to make this more visually appealing? We could highlight, we could make this bold, the customers' names, maybe add some space in between, change the dates, maybe to make a different format, number, amount, we gotta add dollar signs, order date, just keep it simple. So it's not long. So we could do all that. Now let's do that. I also want to point out one thing. To explore. I want to actually show you the outline for this. Outline. Because once you do something like this, I'll move this here. It can be easier. So you can see actually what's going on. You see the body, and then you have list, and then you have detail. And inside, in case you're struggling pulling one table to grid here, and this is all looking confusing to you, here you can see grid, and then you have rows, and then we have entered one table into one cell, another into another. Which table? You can see what's going on in this table, right? What are the details here? You can go all the way down to the nitty-gritty to see what's going on because of all these layers. All right, let's do some formatting here. Customer name, order date. Let's format the date. We don't need outline. We can pull that up if we need. We don't need it right now. That's just in case you're struggling putting all this where it should be. So we say order date and payment date. Under property, format date, oops, custom, and here you can choose any format you want. I'll just put short date, but right down here you can write another M if you want to display a little longer date or more YY. So it looks like that. Maybe I can just leave it like that. Okay, that, and then the amount. We're gonna, numbers should be right aligned to be easier to read, but also we have to add a $sign. So format as currency. Use 1000 separator and the symbol. Okay. Let's make this customer name a little more pop-up. We did not apply any style here, but we could, so you could just do style. All right, you know why is this? Because I'm clicking on the element. I'm not clicking on, we need to click outside right here. Just a moment. I have a hard time selecting this. So now let's go to outliner. And okay, so now I selected it. But in case you cannot select this, you're struggling, you could go to outliner and then select it from there. Okay, new style. We're gonna put font a little bigger, 11, and let's make it bold. And then the background color, maybe we can do gray again. Okay, now let's preview. Okay, so this looks a little better. I would move these to be centered. It's easier to read. I would move this to be right. Order number, move this to the, let's do that. Center. But because this is a number, right. Okay, let's just do it one more time. Okay, that looks pretty good, right? We have connected two tables to the master table. And now we can just see the customers who have made some purchases, not just all the customers in the database. So these are all linked. How did we do that again? We've used the parameter and we've connected that parameter to the customer number. So all of these tables, order table and the payment table, we have where orders customer number equals question mark. And then in the parameter here, we have given a name cust ID. And this is just default. But here in the bindings, data set parameter binding. This cust ID is connected to the customer number. So every time in the table when that customer number goes, it's going to be connected to this parameter. All right. We have modified the query here to only pull that. We have done the same thing for the payment. So that's how we link two other tables to the master table. And also we have done some formatting that you should be familiar by now. And we've used the outliner to know how to put things within the table, so we know how to select the elements that we need. Okay, now let's review everything you have to do to build a subreport. As we have said, the problem is to build a report that displays a list of customers, but for each customer, the report should display order and payment information. The order information and payment information should be in separate adjacent subreports. The customer report, the order subreport, and payment subreport should use data from customers' orders and payments tables, respectively. So what did we learn? We learned how to build data sources. We also used list. We've never done that before. We in this course, we created a customer master report, and then we linked those reports through the parameter for data parameter binding. So we used a common field. We found the common field customer number, and then we linked that. The value of the linking field in the master report will determine what data appears in the detail report. For example, if the customer number in the master report is 173, the detail report displays the order and payment. I'm not going to read this all to you, but you have used data to be used. It's from classic models, but each report was accessing a different table. So we had different data sets. So we created a new report. We had a simple query, just pulling the customer name and customer number from customers. Then we created other data sets. One was from orders, one was from payment, and we made sure that we put 103 just as a default value because that was the customer number that existed. You see here, customer number 103. We could have put 112. Doesn't matter. And we were just testing if the query is okay, and it was for orders, and then for payment. And then we created a report. We dragged the list. We sorted it by customer name. Then we dragged the order table into the detail of the list, and we sorted it by order number. Then we went to the data binding. You see, added data set parameter binding, and we entered their customer number. We used the parameter cust ID to connect that parameter to customer number. So that's how we linked also the order and the payment. So after that, we dragged both of those tables, one below each other, but we saw that that doesn't look so great. So we wanted to put them next to each other. We linked the payment report. I already talked about it. It was the same thing that we did for order. And then we modified our main query. Besides saying, give me just a name and number from customer, we added where exists, and then we said, give me the customer number from orders. And then where that customer number from orders is the equal to the one from the customer. So, and we did the same thing for the payment. Because we want to pull just the customers who have some orders. Okay, then we decided to enter these next to each other, and the only way to do that was to enter a static element grid with just 2 columns. And then inside one column we dragged one table, and inside the other column we dragged the other table. And if that looks difficult with all these details and tables, I told you to use outline to figure out where things need to go. All right, now we are going to do another hands-on after you completed your hands-on on building a subreport. This one is going to be on building a chart, and it's going to be visual and exciting